It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, June 24th. Your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is talking Trevor Zegras, Philadelphia Flyer.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on all your favorite socials, and of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, we had a whole other episode planned for today, which we'll talk about what we're going to do about that a little bit later in the show. But the Flyers traded with the Anaheim Ducks for Trevor Zegras. So that's obviously what we are going to talk about on today's show. June 23rd strikes again, I guess.
Yep.
As it is a momentous day on the calendar in Flyers history, of course. Now, the deal itself, of course, the Flyers just get Trevor Zegras, and I say just, but there's several pieces going the other direction. Ryan Poehling, the 45th pick overall. That's the third of the 4 second rounders there. And what's funny is the 40th with the second one is the one the Flyers got from the Ducks in the Gautier trade. So they didn't want that one back, or Danny didn't let him have that one back.
No, they didn't want that back.
More like... Yeah, and then that 45th pick is the one that we had gotten from Columbus in the Provorov trade that had pushed because it was conditional. So that leaves us with the 36th, 40th, and 48th picks in the second round. Still not too shabby. Plus, we sent our 4th round pick in next year's draft to the Ducks. And Trevor Zegras will apparently wear the number 46, according to the Flyers. He had been 11. Of course, that's Travis Konechny. What are your thoughts initially on this trade, just as a deal?
It's a deal. The assets aren't great that they gave up. I think the Flyers are still going to trade another second, so be on the lookout for that. I just have a feeling, but they didn't trade a first, and Danny said that they really are being careful about him. So I don't think they're trading the first. I think they'll move seconds, but not first. So I think, no matter what, that's part of it. I like Trevor. He's a good guy. I've covered him for a long time. I am not the kind of writer that cares that he and Jamie Drysdale are best friends. I don't care. I don't think it matters that much on the ice. There's a million guys that know each other from playing together. Cam York knows these guys too. Doesn't mean he's going to room with them. They're going to go and play Rick Tockett's way. So not knowing each other is great. And once you get on the ice, it's going to change because that coach is different now. And so the challenge here is clearly Joe Quenneville didn't want to use Trevor Zegras at center. I get it, because right now Trevor Zegras is 41% on faceoffs and not very good defensively. And so you can't use him as a 1C. He's not going to play 1C. So Sean Couturier will play that for as long as he could, stay on the ice. And so that's still a thing. Zegras will probably be on the second line. Whether he plays with Mitchkov or not, who knows? Probably won't. Or maybe they'll just have him on the power play. We'll see. But I don't think he'll play 1C. I think they'll try him at 2C. And again, I don't know if he'll succeed because, Rick Tocchet is different than John Tortorella, but he's not that different where he is going to just say, all right, I'll let you give up defense for offense. There's a little bit of that, but not a lot.
All right. So let's go back to the deal itself, because I have some thoughts on that before we dive into as much on the where he fits. But I do actually think that not giving up a first is a very, very important aspect of this. I think that when you look at, some of what you said in terms of he's a very good player, has a lot of, dynamic potential there.
Yes.
There is the injury history, so we don't truly know his full potential. So there is that risk there. But I do think giving up Poehling, who, when you look at his play, sure, he's a solid 4C, but he has nowhere near the ceiling of a Zegras, and we
No.
understand that, and that's why there's additional assets in the deal, right? So you get the second rounder, you get
Hmm.
that fourth rounder. I think it's a good bet to take, and I think that, when you look at what the Flyers had to give up, the upside is truly there. If it doesn't work out, I think I can live with that. I truly do. I think we'll get into expectations and what's next a little bit later in the show, but I do think that overall it's a very good deal. I think there's some risk involved, but it is a good deal on the surface, and we'll see how it plays out. I think your point about his defensive play is an extremely good one and an important one. Face-offs was one of the first things I looked at
Oh yeah.
when you're looking at his stats in terms of can he potentially be 1C. I think that they're gonna try him with Mitchkov. I don't know that it'll stick, but I can't see a world where they don't at least try it out for a little bit, maybe in the preseason and see
Well,
what.
preseason they could try anything. That's fine.
Yeah,
But I think they're going to find that in the regular season, like even if Rick Tocchet works miracles on him, he's not a 1C. And so like that's to me is going to be the thing where, hey, if you want to put him on the wing with Mitchkov, then we're going to Konecny
mhm.
is going to move down to the second line. Like it's going to be one way or the other. And if people are going to say, well, he could be a center and not take faceoffs, that's fine. But again, like who is that? Who is that wing on the Flyers that's so great at faceoffs? I don't know.
Right. Now, I think his defensive play has gotten marginally better, but I marginally is doing a lot of work there, to be honest,
Yeah.
in terms of the word. But I do think he understands what he needs to do and where he needs to get to defensively at this point. Whether he can get there again remains to be
Right.
seen, but I do think that the offensive output is going to be worth this risk. I think it'll be interesting in terms of where he gets placed if Rick Tocchet keeps the Cates line together or not, because I think that decision is going to have an effect on where Trevor Zegras might fit in the lineup, because it may make sense to bump Cates down to 3C and have Zegras be 2C
Hmm.
with Brink and Forster, right?
Right.
I think that possibility is there as well. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of what Rick Tocchet has to figure out going into this season. We'll talk more about what Danny Briere had to say in the next segment related to that. But, I do think if you look at, his style of play, it doesn't necessarily fit in with the ethos that the Flyers have built up under Torts the last couple of years. And in terms of being a defense first, a shot blocking, like Trevor Zegras is not like your shot blocking guy, right? And so
No.
I do think it's going to be really interesting to see how Rick Tocchet reshapes this team a little bit, and then how Trevor Zegras can get folded into that, right?
Yeah, I think he'll, have lines that do certain things, and I think that's how he's going to do it. The other aspect that we'll get to later in the show is remember he has to get signed too, and so like if you're going to sign him down the road, I mean, again, the Flyers have pushed a lot down the road. Jamie Drysdale, that's going to get pushed now. Now Zegras, because if he's not a center
Right.
but he scores 75 points, how much are you going to pay for a 75-point winger? Like, so that's another question. So like those are other things that unfortunately goes beyond how he plays is where's he going to slot in? Because if he does play 2C, then his 5.75 is going to go to, in my estimation, the least is 7.5. That's the least, probably higher, but that's the least I think it would go. Now, if he's a winger, you might be able to get him at 7, but he's still going to want 7x8 or 8x8 as a center. Like if Marco Rossi's getting 8, he's going to ask for that, but he might get a little less. But that's my point is you've got to be again really sure. So it's fine. They're gonna monkey around and they're gonna take a chance this year, and I think that's a good idea because you didn't give up much, so you could experiment here and see how it works out. And I think that's the big key.
Right. And, you look at like his shooting percentage, It's at 12.2% this past year, which is pretty on par with his best, even in his good years. So
Mhm.
that's where I see like a nugget of good
Yeah.
and the potential there. So, if he can get to the point total that he was in, 2 years ago in 22-23, which, was 65 points, where he had 23 goals and 42 assists. If we can get 25 goals out of him, that would help the Flyers tremendously.
Yeah, all that's fine. But if he gets 25 goals and even 65 points, if he's a minus 25, then you're going to be giving some goals back. So that's where that part of it's going to come in. It's not just all offense.
We'll have more on the Trevor Zegras deal coming up next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, and each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling full longer. And as you know, I am super lazy, don't like shelling the nuts, so I love the no shells variety. It makes it the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, plus having them at my desk while I'm working. And my favorite flavor, sea salt and vinegar, no shells, is always close at hand. It's so delicious and healthy too. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein, providing all 9 essential amino acids. These little green wonders pack a protein punch. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right. Just a reminder of our weekly poll related to this week's NHL draft on your thoughts on having it decentralized this time around. The poll is on our YouTube channel, plus, there's a link to it in the show notes. So make sure you let us know what you think about how the draft is going to go this year. Plus, we have a ton of draft coverage coming up. We are going to do the prospect profiles that we thought we were going to do on today's show on tomorrow's show. So we are going to talk about Jack Nesbitt and Bill Zonin on tomorrow's show. Plus, later in the week for the draft itself, Russ is going to be on site in LA to give us some on location reports. We'll have a recap episode right after the draft on Saturday. Plus, we'll have some additional content on our YouTube channel with reaction clips to all the picks in the first round as they happen. Plus, we're going to have your mailbag questions on tomorrow's show. So get those questions in. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. Send us a message on any of our socials or comment on YouTube. So, Russ, talking about what Danny Briere had to say about the deal, I think it was interesting because there were a couple of key points that came out of it, because we literally had a show yesterday about potential trades that the Flyers
Right.
could do. And we did not include Trevor Zegras
Because
in
we
that
kind of gave up
discussion.
on it. It was an older
Well,
rumor.
yeah, it was the boy that cried wolf,
Right.
honestly, to me. And so the fact that it actually happened was fascinating. And, according to Danny Briere, it just got to the point where the timing was right for both teams. And reading between the lines a little bit, I feel like Danny felt like he got to a point where he talked the price down enough that he was willing to pull the trigger.
Well, I think that's a part of it. I think the other part is Anaheim has looked at this draft and knows they can get a center and reload there for this draft. I think it's both things.
Yeah. Now, obviously, as we know, a second round draft pick isn't necessarily going to help them in that effort.
No,
The
no,
first
they have a
round draft
number.
pick
They have a
will.
10th
Yes.
overall, so they know on the
Yes.
10th overall they'll get one. That's what I mean.
Exactly. Exactly. I just wanted to make it clear that
Yeah,
it was their first rounder that they were counting on, and
yeah,
not the
yeah.
second rounder that
No.
they got from the Flyers there. But he was also very clear, as we were just talking about in the first segment, about how Rick Tocchet is going to be the one to determine where Trevor Zegras falls in the lineup. And while they traded for him hoping that he would be part of the center solution, by no means is it 100% guaranteed.
Right, and that's the risk part of the deal is, well, all right, if you get him and he's not a center, okay, he's still good, but then that changes your plans because then your need is not addressed and you still have those needs. And so he couldn't answer that question because he doesn't know what the coach is going to do. And that's fair. He's just, doing his part as a GM to field the team.
Exactly, and, he was asked about if they were done at center or making trades overall before the draft, and he was very honest and said, "We still need to improve. We still could potentially look for outside help at the center position, or for other positions for that matter, but this is one piece of the puzzle, and if there's a chance to do more, they will." That being said, there are some options from within.
Yeah, I mean, the options from within, I think, are a little weak, except for Luchenko, but I wouldn't put him in that spot. That's me. We
No.
talked about it. So I think the options from within are a little weak, other than Abel's playing 4C. Yes. Can he play 4C?
Yep.
Yes. People are asking me, should they get somebody for 4C? And my answer is not on the free agent market. It's not worth it. So, because you have a guy that can play it. So I wouldn't mess with 4C. I think they're still going to get a defenseman, and I still think they're going to get a goalie somehow. So I think that's where their other allocations are going to go.
I agree, and I think that, you look at the other options he mentioned specifically is Carson Dorwart, Jacob Gaucher is probably a long shot, but a
Yeah,
later season call-up option to try him out at
sure.
4C, but I think that Abels is the right answer there of the solution from within, and he did bring up Abels
He
specifically,
did.
so that was good to hear. I don't think that he brings the same thing to the table that Ryan Poehling did, but I don't
No.
think it's any worse necessarily. I think it's just a different style of
Yeah, I mean,
player.
he's not fast like he is. He
Right.
plays a different game. He's more of a puck possession game. He'll go to the net. Ryan didn't go to the net. It's fine.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, the other big question I think with Trevor Zegras is the drop in production over the last couple of years. And
Yep,
as we've talked about, it is largely injury related, but there's also something to it that there just wasn't something right going on with him in Anaheim. And so I think the fact that Danny Briere said that he wouldn't have been available if the production hadn't dropped,
of
right?
course.
If he was playing well, then the Ducks would want to keep him. So there's certainly something to be said for that, but that Briere thought he was worth the risk given his past play and the potential.
Yeah, no, it's worth it. I mean, there's no question, and I think Anaheim looked at it and said, "Look, we have enough at center here, and so we could reload there." And I'm sure Joel Quenneville was like, "He's not going to play center," and then it's like, and maybe Joel Quenneville didn't want him to play at all because he has a lot of work to do, and Quenneville doesn't have patience for that. So all those things play into it as to why they would deal him. So it's a good deal because what they get is a known quantity at center. They know this guy can play
Right.
center. They know what his contract is. That's a given and a known. The Flyers have more unknowns here. So that's why, they're willing to do it.
Exactly. And I think that, when you talk about the chemistry issue, there you kind of I would say half scoldingly talked about it doesn't matter that his best friend's on the team and whatnot. But I do think that helps in terms of integrating him in with the team. And when Danny Briere was asked specifically about Jamie Drysdale or Cam York getting consulted, I think he had the right answer that, they kind of surreptitiously talked to these guys over the course of the season to get their thoughts on various players, and kind of buried in there was questions about Trevor Zegras, but that, right before the trade or leading up to the trade, they don't talk to these guys directly about it. It's just sort of in passing as they talk about players throughout the league.
Right. I mean, again, I don't hold a lot of stock about asking your players about players they're playing against, especially if they're friends with them, because sometimes they do want to get their friends on the team. They might give you a little
Yeah,
bit of a jaded report. Like you have to know that it's not always all going to be that way, right? So that's why I just kind of like, all right, that's fine, but I don't think there's that much to gain from it. They watch these guys. They do.
right. They do. And I think it's just been fun in terms of the social media content so far, in terms of some videos and some pictures of Drysdale and Zegras together in Anaheim. So let the social media and marketing teams use that and kind of go from there. I do want to mention that our friend Kyle from Locked On Anaheim Ducks said that he felt like the Ducks got hosed a bit on the deal in a message to me. And he also was very clear that Paling's best year matched Zegras' worst year. And so, in terms of the players involved, he thinks the Flyers got the better end of the deal relative to the additional picks that the Ducks got in return, but that it will be also good for Zegras to get a fresh start, that he really thinks it'll help him.
Yeah, I mean, all those things are true. If the social media team wants to get pictures, York and Zegras played together on the NTDP, still doesn't mean
Yeah,
it's going to make York play any better this time around. Like
I
that
know.
kind of stuff, it's fine. It's a story. I don't get too hung up on it. But uh yeah, I understand what Kyle's saying. Sure, Trevor Zegras is the better player, but the issue is Joel Quenneville's looking for a certain guys the way they play, and Paling actually fits the what he's looking for more than Zegras does, and so that's fine. That's a part of this. Plus, we also have to point out the Anaheim Ducks are very good at drafting, and that second pick they'll likely
Yes.
turn into somebody. Where other teams, it's a 40% swing at it. For them, it's a lot higher. So they know these things. So that's. But again, this could be a real home run, but it's just a double. Like I have to see how all the rest works out. Nobody wins anything on paper.
That is absolutely true. And we're going to talk more about the deal and what's to come next for Trevor Zegras, the contract, and how it will affect the Flyers' future moves coming up next. All right, Russ. So you alluded to the upcoming contract for Trevor Zegras. And as we know, he's in his third year of a $5.75 million deal. So he will be in a contract year. He'll be an RFA with arbitration rights there. And so I think it'll be a significant year for him. And he'll have to really work hard to produce to earn that contract with the Flyers. But it's not something that I would have the Flyers extend right away. I think you need to see at least half of the season before you consider signing that extension.
Yeah, they will do that. They're not going to sign it right away. They'll wait at least a half a season, maybe even longer. Uh, that's fine. I mean, technically they don't have to do anything, but then you just don't want to walk them to potential free agency on that contract. But they might do that too. Like again, if Jamie Drysdale's contract were truly up, they would have walked him to free agency, I believe. But since he has more runway, they got another. They got a little bit more chance to see him. That's how these deals go.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, if you're looking at his stats and what he has to do to kind of earn the same amount of money or more that he's making now, you'd think he has to match that high point total from 2 seasons ago at minimum, right?
Yeah, I mean, if he gets 65 points, he's going to get, now, if he's 65 points as a center, then I think he's getting $7.5 million for 8
Right.
years. If he's 65 points as a winger, maybe they can knock it down to 7, but he's not going to take 5.7. Like they'll just, if they do, it'll be on a 1 year deal. And then you have to worry about all that down the road. But I don't think that'll be
Well,
the
that's
case.
inflation, I think, in a lot of cases,
Yeah, I
just
mean, it
due
just
to the
is the
cap
cap went
going
up.
up.
Yeah. And all the players are expecting more. Like that's the way the game works.
Yeah, I think so. But I do think that's the benchmark for him is to
Yeah,
at least match that 65 point
I
total,
agree.
if not more, this
He's
upcoming
capable of more,
season.
but, like, we just have to see if he can do it.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But I think that he has a lot of incentive. I think the fresh start, like I said, will help him a lot. And it'll just be a matter if he can stay healthy and he can do what Rick Tocchet wants him to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be a big thing. When I tweeted that, they're gonna have to rein him in, that's where Rick Tockett's gonna have to rein him in to kinda get him to play a little more responsibly so that he can play that freewheeling hockey too. There's gonna have to be a bigger balance, that's all.
Right, to your point about you can't give up that many goals out
Right.
there. Even if you score all those points, it doesn't matter if it's a wash
Yeah, if
with
you
your
get a goal
defensive
and then you
play.
give a goal, coaches just don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Now, as far as the effect on other Flyers' potential signings here, we talked a little bit about what Danny Briere had to say about, this being just one piece of the puzzle, and if there's a chance, they'll do more. The Maxim Shabanoff rumors are still out there. He got an agent in North America since the
Yeah.
last time we spoke about it, which is another step toward him signing in the NHL. it's obviously still to be determined. He's definitely a winger, I would
Oh yeah,
say.
he's a winger. There's no doubt, and he's not the biggest guy, so
No.
there's no doubt he's a winger. I don't know. This may cloud that one a little. I don't know if the Flyers are
Yeah.
going to go back on that a little now because it's kind of like, well, they got. I think they were looking for more offense, and I think they found that. So now I think they need different kinds of players. I'm not sure Shabanov's the guy to bring in anymore, to be honest.
Yeah, and I do think that in a vacuum, the Flyers could probably have outbid other teams for him,
Right.
but given the Zegras deal, maybe they can't anymore, or they wouldn't want to at this point.
A little went back with Paling, so that's fine. But I kind of looked at it, and let's say York gets 5, and they get somebody else at defense, they get somebody else in net. All those are going to be, and then you might have a couple of million under the cap after that, 2-3 million, and that's probably where you're at. And I just don't think he's going to be able to bring in a really good center. Even if you offer a center $6-7 million, they're going to look at the Flyers and say, "You just got Zegras. You don't even know what's happening at 1C or 2C. Why am I going to come there?" I think that clouds that. So I don't think he's going to be
Yeah,
able to get a center now
I agree, and that's why I
in
think he
free
really
agency.
should. Right, and that's why I agree that they should really focus on that depth defenseman and
Yeah.
potentially a goalie. I
Yep.
think they could survive without a goalie, but I don't think it would go that well without a goalie. So,
No, there's too
uh,
much uneasiness with the goaltending, and Danny's holding a good line right now for Kolosov, maybe hoping that someone would take him for any kind of pick, and it hasn't happened yet.
yeah, I mean, I think that would be like the miracle is if they could trade him for a pick in next year's draft, even
Because
if
they can't
it's
trade for
a
Dodov at that
third.
salary. That salary
No.
is prohibitive.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But we'll see where Trevor Zegras fits in. Will be fun
Yeah, it's
to
exciting.
see him in a Flyers jersey coming up
He's a
at
fun guy.
training
He
camp.
is.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very excited about it. Very pleased with the deal. We will continue our discussions about this and about the draft on tomorrow's show, talking about a couple of prospects that are late first round options. Very excited to do that. Plus, we'll have our mailbag. So let us know your questions or your Flyers thoughts on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There's no off season in hockey. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. I'm on the Friday show. You can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.